Welcome back to Prince of Persia 2008. So it's time to tackle the last of the generals that we're missing, the warrior.
It's time to duel.
As you can see, also, Bob, this means that we're not too much far away from the end of the game, at least.
Loading city gates.
Yeah, specifically, if you don't remember, the warrior is residing in what was his city. As it was mentioned, he was, in order to save his own people, he made forged that contract with Ahriman. But unfortunately, just like any good deals with the devil, he got the short side of a stick, and on the long run, things didn't turn out as he wanted.
That light bulb that Elika threw, that looks so much like the Tikal ball from Sonic Adventure. This way!
Hey, Prince, I need to show you something.
It's just colored blue instead of red.
At least it doesn't interrupt cutscenes, I guess.
Watch out!
It's not that.
Watch out, she's up to something.
So yeah, in the last part we finally finished up the concubine, where we had one of the few neat ideas involving Elika saving you.
Like I said, I will say that the warrior as a whole is probably the most interesting of the bosses, because it requires you to actually use the environment to your advantage instead of pointlessly, wag your sword at it. But again, considering everything, it's still not saying that much, unfortunately. Oh. Gee,
Oh
shit.
no, the humanity, the absolute groping, and yeah, you know how this goes.
Watch your step.
Thanks, Erika. That's all that we need from that. Watch your step.
You know, I think the annoying thing is that she'll just take you back to a fixed location. It's
Well,
like, well,
no. Like I said, Jova, it is fixed, but it's basically the last solid platform on which you were standing.
You know, that's the thing,
that's
though.
my point, though. It's like, I mean, why not take it to a more convenient spot? Like, I mean,
Because
okay,
that's supposedly what the challenge is. The game, like I said, giving you a long streak of platforming challenges to do, and if you fuck up at any moment, you need to start from the beginning. On a conceptual level, it's not even that bad. Games like Super Meat Boy also have that. It's just that it's considering the zero challenge factor given by your immortality, it's pointless when you think about it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. It's kind of similar to how King's Quest 7 and The Odd Gentleman reimagining adopted a death system where you die, but then you can just respawn right before you died, which of course was a direct result of the fact that the old ways before 7 were just starting to get outdated. Some of the purists of King's Quest still prefer the old ways because they make the argument, just save all the time, and at the same time, doing it this way, the way 7 and the 2015 one do it, is that it basically renders danger not dangerous. So personally, I don't mind it because to me the challenge. Sorry.
The Tower of Ahriman has been abandoned for a long time.
No, but basically this is one of the places. Due to how the fights against the warrior are constructed, the environment takes a bit more precedence here. This was also happening with the concubine, as you may have noticed, where the palace was needed to be more explorable in order to get to the generals. But here it takes a bit of a bit more. Especially because it's themed after the general itself, similar to a typical Layton game where the twist is connected usually to the city itself that is the center focus of the game, one way or the other, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, continue, Pedro.
Honestly, to me, the challenge in King's Quest was always about using correct items, solving puzzles, and figuring stuff out, rather than trying not to die, because as long as you save often in King's Quests 1 through 6, you can just do fine enough, honestly. So honestly,
I think that's it, though. Like the fact that technically speaking, the option of respawning just before you facing an obstacle was there thanks to the save state. What they just did was simply put more laziness into the player.
You know what I?
Yes, and
You know
so,
what?
oh, you don't even have to remember to save when you want before a difficult challenge.
Hey guys.
Yes, Jova?
Anyone else love how during that one scene where they were talking idly, they were literally in the middle of that deadly Baku, and it's like, they don't care. Like, I get that
Guess
they're
they got
supposed to be
used to
That's the-
challenge
that's the
anything, but
thing,
that's a
Jova.
weird place to put it for a cutscene to happen.
That's the thing also, Jova. It's a bit weird that only recently games like Spider-Man PS4 have started adopting a system where if the character is performing an action where a dialogue is supposed to take place, it would be used an actual different voice clip that instead reflects the struggle with the physical struggle that the character is having at that moment. You know. It's weird because you think considering a lot of games have a lot of voice lines, therefore a lot of audio lines. You think that a feature such as that would be easy to implement,
It
you know,
really
or
does
more
blow
often
my
at
mind.
least.
It's not that
I
it's
talk about
hard to
product
implement
that's
it.
not
Sorry.
always having, the creative backbone or just the gumption to put it in. Sadly,
It's not so much that it's hard to. It's more so that it takes time and money, and it depends on whether the company funding the game is willing to spend that extra money.
I suppose.
it's extra jarring when the characters visually do not even care what's surrounding them. Like, again, dude, you're literally having a talk right next to the goo that we have seen can reach up and grab you at times. Yeah, let's just idly chat here of all places. It feels like such an oversight on the developers' parts.
Like I said, Jova, a lot of
And again, what doesn't feel like
Or
a
something that
developer's
is more
oversight in
taken,
this game?
or something that is more taken for granted.
like I
I
said,
guess that's more also valuable.
like I said, Jova, I'm pretty sure every single developer would love to have that kind of detail. It's just that most of the time developers are not allowed to because either lack of money or lack of time.
It
There we go.
depends. Some I would chalk up to kind of just being lazy on that. I will agree, though, it can be a case, though.
Especially considering that some games already have a sort of system that particularly reflects the huge amount of voice clips that they have. The Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War video games done by Warner Bros. About the Lord of the Rings have like a gajillion different voice clips that have to be reflected due to its the composition of the Nemesis system, in how each randomly generated orc has a lot of different lines and they don't need to repeat each other. And believe me, I played at least the first game and saw at least the other one, and believe me, I haven't seen a single repeated line so far. Like that's the amount of work and time spent for all those voice lines is something that I never seen before for a game like that. So the thing is, well, for a game like that, having the whole character speaking different due to a struggle is not really necessary due to its structure. So I can see that not be a priority. But I'll say the Spider-Man, I don't know, maybe some other superhero games like the Batman ones may be more required as things like that for the future. I don't know. Anyway, here's the warrior. You can just
you probably
teleport,
war?
Prince.
I mean, friends, regardless of whether or not you face this or you've faced at least, well, okay, I guess to be fair, you can technically face this guy first, but even still, you think you would kind of come to the conclusion, hey, they can teleport going off of his first fight with the warrior.
He looks like a thief.
Yeah, you noticed that before.
Who?
You don't know, Dweebs. One of the basically a fancy terms that Final Fantasy 13 uses for the undead. That's what it
Basically
is.
a crystal zombie.
Yeah, basically.
I'll just call him the undead.
It's fancy. Dweebs.
Because
It's
Final
fun.
Fantasy, see the thing is, Final Fantasy 14 has this
It's
fetish.
a typical rule, never say the Z word.
Basically, the Final Fantasy 13 has one of those games that has this fetish of trying to give everything fancy names in order to sound complex or just creative and some shit, you know.
Ow.
It's not Soldier Dwebs, it's Psychom.
Well, I don't mind that. It gives more
Well,
personality to the
that
word.
was-
It's just that it needed a bit more context, I guess. It's similar to the same way why the Ivalice games unnecessarily put a K in something like magics or techniques. It's just their way to say it and gives that distinct trait to them.
13's main issue is that it tries to tell a complex story. The problem is that it can't be ours to actually show all the details properly. I mean, sure, it eventually shows some of those details, but it comes to a point where the audience doesn't care, unless the audience checks out Adalog. So, warrior-wise, how fun is this guy?
Sorry?
So, in terms of actually putting up a good fight, how's this guy?
Oh, no, it's fine. Like I said, since it's Volk and everything, it's all about pushing him over the edge, like I'm just about to do. There we go.
So, what thing tell back up to us?
Sorry, Joe, I couldn't get that.
So, if he could teleport before, what's stopping him from teleporting back up to us?
Well, the fact that we pushed him from a huge set of building, it's not good logic, Joe. It takes a bit to reform.
I guess.
And this gives us the time to heal the fertile ground. Gameplay-wise, it's gameplay story segregation. We can wait all the time that we want. But in story, basically, it's just Erika hurrying the fuck up to heal the fertile ground.
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
Just pets her.
This isn't your tower anymore. This is my tower.
Why do you say that?
You know, maybe with an inscription.
Because,
Tower of the savior of the city of
Okay, so he's greedy? I don't... Okay.
No, because he's the smug rebel, he's the smug rogue type, so that's why I need to be cocky about that. Again, all of these traits for the prince are just not earned in the slightest, unfortunately.
That's the main problem. There's no sense of context as to why he's all of a sudden like this. Like, 1 minute, he's just a nice guy.
Maybe that's it, Jova, now that I think about it. It feels almost as if we should be the second chapter, not the first one.
Yeah, I mean,
it should there have been an origin story for the prince that we have completely missed. Because think about it, it's trying to emulating, like I said, it's trying to emulating the Sinbad story from the Arabian Night. But here's the thing: the Sinbad series of stories still had a beginning, before he actually became a sailor and started encountering all those weird shit. But here, no, we're thrusting in the middle of the action of this particular problem that he's witnessing, and he's just accepting it like that. It's just weird.
The real problem is that we really do not know his character. Like, okay. And before anyone says, oh, but there are certain examples where you don't get to know a character's origin until the second movie. Well, yeah, but usually in that kind of context, we at least know enough about the character. Or here's another thing, the character in question is not the main protagonist or main focus. Here, even though the prince isn't supposed to be the main focus, he is still the main protagonist. And, when you play as the main protagonist, more often than not, I'm not going to say always, but more often than not, you want to know enough about it. And this is one of those character-driven stories where, yes, it would help to know more about the prince.
Anyway, next fertile ground.
Again, probably doesn't help that, there's not much else in this game to really... Why not just slide down? Unless you're trying to get
I was trying to, but unfortunately the game registered as if I wanted to go up, and that's what I'm supposed to do.
Huh.
There you go, like that, and then down the column. Again, unfortunately, Jovati suffers the same problem as the Sand Saga, in a sense that the prince, similar also to King's Quest, since that the prince cannot jump any more than like 5 feet, otherwise it counts as him taking a step into a bottomless pit. I mean, considering again how Elika says him, you think, well, it's not big of a deal, but again, it just puts a bit of a nuisance in the whole platforming thing.
Anyway, back to why I think we need more context with the
Go
prince.
on.
See, unless we have context with the prince, as far as we know, from different scene to different scene, he's practically a different person. One time, he's a rogue who wants to score and stuff, but he's truly a trick with a
That
heart of gold.
trophy, I forgot if I mentioned this already. That trophy is about if you manage to slay the enemies before they actually are completely formed. Basically, if you do it a lot of times, you get that.
Alright.
Queen's Tower.
Anyway, this is another tower.
10th level of a tower.
It isn't my tower. It is dedicated to the women who ruled here.
That makes it yours.
My father is still king. He speaks for the
Is your father still king of
He's
whatever,
a
like
bit too
wherever your
corrupted.
kingdom
The
is?
problem, that's the problem. He's a bit too corrupted by
And
this
isn't
point.
kingdom kind of no more?
Where next?
Well, that's the thing, Jova. We killed him, but it's pretty clear at this point that he's too much deep into Ahriman's.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, it's like, well, isn't her whole kingdom kind of, destroyed anyway?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of pointless.
Again, here's the thing with the prince here. It's like, well, again, 1 minute he's kind, 1 minute he's a rogue, 1 minute he's caring, 1 minute he's just here for my donkey. It's like, if we knew what his character was, we'd understand the changes. But since we don't know what his character is, as far as we know, he's just being random.
And unfortunately, that personality alone cannot carry the game.
Yeah.
Now this is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Technically, yeah, it's fun like that.
Yeah.
That kind of power. And among the ones, it's similar to the flight of our Mazda. It gives a bit of challenge.
It seems a bit.
Yes,
It seems a bit similar to Yoshi's running power up in Galaxy 2.
Yeah, reminds me of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Only with less, hot peppers.
Definitely does. And it helps that's a nice extension of parkour. Oh man, it does seem to be going on for a bit of a while. Oh, never mind.
Well, yeah, again, the challenge of the platforming, stacking up many things we need to do.
True. Oh no, that's poisonous, I guess.
Watch out, Prince! A poisonous mist!
And what if it were? And then he fought to like the
Oh, they didn't do. They just waited for us. Problem. Now the area is closed, so we don't have an idea on how to push it. Oh, maybe there.
Never mind.
How could-
Basically, here's what we do. The gates that gets open, I think it rotates. So we need to wait at a specific moment that one of them is open and push it from there.
How nice. Who the heck opens it?
I don't know.
The game designers.
Oh, and yet you kill us.
Yeah. I think the more appropriate answer would have been just yes.
Unfortunately, maneuvering like that in a square, like environment is a bit hard.
You don't say.
Oh, that's just rude.
Do the thing!
Boosh.
Whatever that was.
When you say that, Joe, and I'm imagining Varric with the Infinity Gauntlet or something.
That
No,
would
please.
be pretty awesome.
The Infinity Gauntlet should be in the hands of literally anyone but him.
And Thanos.
But yeah, that
Say
too.
that.
We already do. Wish that all resources of worth be doubled. That would
Dweebs,
make them less valuable.
there are countless essays online on how that doesn't work. It's the the MCU equivalent of the whole Eagle theory for Lord of the Rings. Just
Go
doesn't
figure.
work, and yet people don't seem to want to listen.
Yeah, but, one of my wishes now for the MCU in the future, especially since they've been on a bit of since after Disney's big
It's even
acquisition
Nimbles a
recently,
debate.
just have Deadpool get the Infinity Gauntlet and then have the trigger be Deadpool giving the Fox Disney executives the finger in
Well-
rebooting the MCU.
Well, there was at this point, well, I mean, the stones have been returned to their rightful owners, but I'm pretty sure wasn't the gauntlet destroyed as well.
Yeah.
Deadpool
Well,
probably
well,
just rewrite the story
Mind you, though, Pedro, considering Stark Technologies, it can be potentially replicated.
Sure.
It's just like it just lacks the stones, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Oh.
And stay down.
Bigger they are.
Maybe they should leave that.
Did you really
Gauntlet,
just
you
make
know,
a joke like that,
dead.
Prince? Really?
Well, I mean, it's
Yes,
better than
yes,
a hard
they
day's
did.
fall.
Anyway, as you can see, also if you manage to make take the advantage of the environment, thankfully you can make quick work out of the battles with the warrior, compared to stuff like the alchemist or the concubine, which will take instead forever because you have to deplete their Elvar and they teleport away if you don't take advantage maybe of if you take advantage of the boneless pizza. So thankfully the game is more merciful. If anything, like I said, the warrior is the closest being there is to a sort of challenge because his health does not dwindle, so even if you die, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't regenerate.
You still don't.
It forces you to actually think about the environment instead of actually giving you arbitrary barriers like that. And even his attacks are not as annoying as the other generals.
I have a better idea, Lewis.
What?
That one character that showed up in the mid-credit scene of Far From Home, you know the one. He should get the Infinity Gauntlet and make it so that there's no all superheroes dust away.
Well, there was something closer to that. Well, not precisely like that, but there was closer to that with the event. Well, two events particularly, both of them involving the mutants. One was Age of Apocalypse, where due to a series of time travel shenanigans, the world ended up being basically the comic book version, please mind you. The world ended up being sort of a wasteland with only a bunch of mutants surviving, and almost everyone else being destroyed. The other being House of M, in which Scarlet Witch. I think it was Scarlet Witch decided to make a wish in a sense. What if the mutants were the predominant species on the planet, and instead the non-powered, non-mutant superheroes were instead the minorities, which was the status quo for a while on the Marvel Universe. It really provided a bit of a fresh sort of change. It even gave Magneto a dictator uniform that was a bit controversial because it was similar to the one of the King of Spain. Oops.
I mean, what else? How would the other villains are used to think? I mean, would like 3/4 of MCU villains be like, okay?
Well, not
Like,
the
if
ones
I
that
use
are
the-
right now, Twibs, but let's be reassured.
What I mean is, what I was trying to make a figure like, okay, can we? If I snap my fingers, can I not be lumped in with 80% of the other forgettable MCU villains? Snap.
Yes, Jova, you wanted to say?
Yeah,
Oh,
outdated joke if you ask me, Dwebs. That hasn't been the case in a while now.
Well, I'd argue for Ragnarok, but go on.
Yeah, I liked Kate Blanchett chewing the scenery.
That was about it.
pastry
Anyway, go on,
villains were
Kevin.
better, admittedly.
No, but rest assured, Waves, if for the future of the MCU we manage to finally get Doctor Doom right, believe me, he's a perfect candidate to take something as the gauntlet for himself.
Oh heck yeah!
Well, that's if they want to use the gauntlet in future movies.
Well,
again.
yeah, that's
Or
what-
if they'll do
but-
something
Probably
else.
Believe me,
Right.
Dweebs, even without that, the Marvel multiverse has a plethora of different gadgets that can still be interesting for future reference, like, say, for example, the Ultimate Nullifier. Basically, Dweebs, you know that micro gun in the first two Men in Black movies, the one that's treated as a joke but is super powerful? Think something like that, even in size, except it shoots out a ball of white light that basically nullifies everything that touches. The only limit, the imagination of the wielder. Basically,
much.
even Galactus shits himself at the mere mention of it.
Something that even Galactus would be scared of. Let's talk about Sacred Wars. Holy cow! Would
thought you
Sacred
were gonna
Wars be an
say-
interesting movie to adapt?
I thought
Basically,
you were going to say Fox executives too.
But, well, Jova, that's the thing. Considering... Oh, hold on. Basically, this is another tower, in case you wonder. Yes, like, most of the city ruins are composed by towers. Thankfully, they're not the traditional Ubisoft towers. So rest assured, you don't need to unlock parts of a map by going up from them.
Oh, thank God.
But Jova, that's the thing. As much as that would be very interesting, considering also with the contract that Marvel is having with Universal and everything, it gives me kind of the feeling that they wanted to do something like that, but they couldn't. So we just squeezed in a reference like that in Endgame. I don't know.
well, yeah. Oh, yeah, obviously. I wasn't talking about... Okay, I said it would be nice if they made a Secret Wars adaptation, but I wasn't saying that that's what I was talking about. What I was talking about was, if you want to talk about a potential villain for a whole nother trend, that's the Beyonder.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Spider-Man animated series managed to get him right.
Basically, the Beyonder is a being who can summon anyone and bid them to do his bidding, even someone as big as Galactus.
Anyway, in this particular challenge, the pillars are not. So you don't have bottomless pits to use. So instead, the strategy is to push him down right into one of these pillars on one of the angles of the room. There you go. Just need to position yourself like that.
Use the pillars against him.
Yes, I get it, Eric. I'm doing it. Jesus. There we go. This is actually one of the few times where you actually damage his health bar.
This is Ormaz's tower. Ahriman does not rule here.
Uh, I don't know.
Whoever that is.
Jova, we established that ever since part 1. At least for that you can give the game some slack.
I'm joking. I mean, yes, I know who he is, but let's think about it like right now. Not, yeah, sure, we've been told about that person.
That's
but...
the thing. Ormaz is the classic, for this particular story, Ormaz is that kind of god, benevolent god, that stays hidden, like, all the time, and, well, you have Elika manifesting his powers, so there is that, but otherwise you need to take everything else for granted, regardless
Like,
about that.
okay. Imagine it was like God of War, but never gods. Like, we were just told about the gods. Like, would that be nearly as exciting?
Probably not.
No, not really.
I mean, again. I mean, when I ask who he is, yes, I know that the game has told us about it, but we don't really know what he looks like, what he really is.
No, that's... Well, to be fair, we don't even know what Ahriman looks like, Jova.
Well, okay, but the game seems to be hinting that we'll be seeing Ahriman, and at least we've heard Ahriman.
That's the thing, Jova. Well, you know already the answer, so I'll not tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know about that. Anyway, though, but you know what this reminds me of? The goddess
What?
Etro from the 13 saga.
Yeah.
Someone
aside
we're
from-
constantly told about.
Yeah,
and apparently
you know what? You know what's ironic? So ironic that we
What?
never see technically any form of Etro in the 13th saga. The only piece of media that exists for her is the Yoshitaka Amano artwork that in one specific media is only present in the movie Kingsglaive of Final Fantasy 15, a media that
Wow.
has detached itself from the problem of Crystallis. So
How about that?
she's only being her only physical, or at least the appearance that can be seen, is basically a glorified cameo.
Despite the fact that she apparently plays a big role, seeing as how she chooses Lightning as her guardian and all that.
And remember,
jazz.
Jova, she's also the one responsible for the decrystallization of the heroes at the end of the original 13.
Well, remember, Jova, that's the thing. After the incredible backlash to Final Fantasy 14, Tabata decided it was better to just let go of the Fabula Nova Crystalla thing and just make a self-contained game that would not be tied to 13. Basically, they wanted to separate it from 13 because they know how much people hated 13. Basically,
I actually pondered for a while if this was revenge, a sort of a small revenge on his part for what happened to the world that he created for Type 0. Because without spoiling too much, regardless of what happens in Type 0. All the events that happen to it are meaningless because they are connected to the Fabulum Crystallis, and thanks to any turns we know what happened to it. The entire universe gets rebooted, and therefore the world of Type 0 basically goes away.
Well, Tail, maybe that's why we won't get a Type 1.
So tell me, how was the world of Type 0? Was it something people liked?
Very interesting, actually. It's hard to explain it without spoilers, but all you need to do it's basically hold up.
How many gods have you made angry?
Let's just get out
Oh,
of here.
that sounds like something interesting. But no, let's just get out of here.
Let's just shrug it away.
So the implication that our hero may have fought gods before, that sounds like something interesting, but it feels like the story is playing keep away with us for any details about him. And I get it. Maybe you want to keep this character a mystery, but I don't know. Okay, yeah, I know who to root for, but I don't know much about who I'm rooting for.
Basically, Java, to describe without too much spoilers the world of Type 0, think of it as a mixture between it's basically a world that is torn by a world war that's going on, and the crux of this is the series of playable characters that you control, which is a class of students specialized in combat, and each of them with his or her own favorite weapons.
Why does that remind me of Fire Emblem The Three Houses?
The concept of a school dedicated for war with young children is nothing new. But the direction that Tabata took the game in is actually rather interesting, especially considering there are a couple of twists that I can't spoil in the game. Some of them may be connected to the Fabulum Crystallis, others not so much.
It's a good job that. Sorry.
So basically, it does a good job in making the game stand on its own, but at the same time being part of something bigger.
It's a good
From
job
what
the
I
game's
can-
not called Fire. It's a good job the game's not called Fire Emblem Four Houses, otherwise we'd have the most extremely obvious evil one for the fourth one.
Actually, Dreams, how do you...
people would be making even more Harry Potter.
Also, Dreams, how do you know that one of the existing faction is not already the most evil one?
Like I've tried to
actually.
Devs, one of my biggest arguments when it comes to Harry Potter is why the hell is the Slytherin house even still a thing? Just disband this thing because all it creates is evil sorcerers.
I've actually got a prediction. The Hufflepuff one will turn out to be the evil ones.
Well, of course it is.
Because they're sick of everyone always associating them to be the House of Dummies. So so they just decide.
Oh, that's not nice.
Oh yeah. We're dumb, are we? Well, we'll show you.
Dumbledore's like, let's see, this house is always creating evil wizards. I see no reason why I should take action about this.
Yeah, Pedro, I think I know what was going to happen. Dumbledore was going to disband Slytherin House, but he died that day.
Oh.
No, what I actually think it happened is something more of a lack of economical interest, considering Slytherin attracts usually all the pure blood, and those are the richest nutty guys, the one that brings all the money, and have influences in political aspects. So take that for what you want.
Well, all those rich little guys just go to another one of the houses, maybe.
That's one of the problems. But whatever. The point being that in this case, particularly, instead, the fertile ground is being crashed onto the bottom of the tower. So here's hoping it's still functional. Well, of course it is.
It's not damaged.
How do you damage something so mystical?
Well, it's a seal at the end of the day. If you break the surface where it is, it should do the trick.
Well, let me ask. Sorry.
That's what the Guardian was trying to do, make it crush entirely.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely green. Yeah.
So from what I can understand, Final Fantasy Type 0 was like the Resident Evil Revelations of the of the Final Fantasy series, in the sense that it was the spin-off game that came alongside the mainline game and ended up being the better game compared to the mainline game.
But it's also not really that talked about compared to the main game still.
Well, that's usually the thing with Final Fantasy spin-offs to begin with.
Also, marketing waves. When the game finally got localized with the HD port, the Iron was not as hot as it was before.
Yeah, that's a problem with some prioritizations here and there. It's like, well, some companies don't realize, yes, we want them localized, but if you don't localize them ASAP, sometimes we may lose interest in them over time.
On the other hand, if you localize them too quickly, you'll end up with
a rushed localization.
Well, Ace Attorney sometimes.
Yeah, Ace Attorney has good localizations.
Ace Attorney kind of has all ends of the spectrum on that one, honestly.
The only problem the localizations have is a few typos here and there, and to be honest, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Also, two kind of sort of different genres in that regard. With a visual novel asks you to be concentrated entirely about the text and everything, or the voice acting in case. Sometimes, for instead of an action game, there may be the case where you're more interested in the actual action or the commands like that.
I mean, hell, for stuff like World Ends With You, where, you know, there's a lot of obvious Japanese text in the background, still, you know, it's just, you know, they just treat it as like these mystical moon runes. Like, well, with stuff like that, you don't have to localize as much in the background.
Anyway, as our two main brave heroes, quote unquote, said, everything seems to be fine for now for the Tower of Mud. So next time we defeat for good the warrior and basically the last of the generals before tackling Iron Man. See ya.
Yeah,
See ya.
See you then.